Welcome to another Donkeys and Dragons video chat where we spend about 15 minutes chatting about some specific topic. Today, we're going to talk about assessing quality practices with QPAM. Hi, I'm Lisa Crispin. Today's episode is going to be a little different than our usual operations. Jan and I usually co-host these chats, but today she's one of the guests, along with Selena Delesie. Selena has had a long career in testing, leadership coaching, and more. She currently works as an agile coach for teams and leadership in Eastern Canada. Janet and Selena recently co-authored their new book, Assessing Quality Practices with QPAM, the Quality Practices Assessment Model. So let's talk about this. And I'd like to start with you, Janet. How did this model come about?
Oh, I'll try to make this a very short story. So I've done assessments for years on teams' agile practices, always relating to quality, of course, but they've been informal, which, when you're in person, it's pretty easy to do. You observe, you ask questions based on your observations, your experience, um, you sit with people, you talk. However, um, during that whole COVID kind of crisis we had, an organization asked me to do one remotely. And I realized that I couldn't do it the same way. So when I tried to figure it out, I kind of was struggling. And it was usually said that actually pointed me to Alan Page's Quality Culture Guide. I think that's what it is. And it was really the perfect thing to help me get started. Although it wasn't quite what I needed, I didn't have enough information. So that's when I asked Selena to help me expand it. And so once I had the model in spreadsheet format, because that's kind of how I think, and Selena seemed to be happy with it, I was able to do that first remote assessment with so much more confidence. So that's how it started.
Oh, so that's great. And a silver lining to the pandemic. We got the QPAM. So you worked out this model and then you used it with at least one organization up to that point.
Yeah.
So Selena, how did this end up becoming a book?
Well, after we developed the model, Jen and were chatting and we're like, well, we have something to do something with other than just doing assessments ourselves, right? So what are we going to do with this? And we tossed around a number of ideas and we landed on, well, why don't we just turn it into a book first? So we can kind of gift this out to other practitioners, colleagues, consultants, trainers, whoever into the world, and that they can just kind of take it up and run with it themselves. So that's how that journey started. And, thankfully we're able to, after some delays, get the book released last year. And yeah, we're really, really proud of what it is that we've created with this and where it might go next with further opportunities for ourselves, but also for others in the field.
Oh, it's super awesome that you've shared this with the whole software community. Um, so I'd like to talk a little bit more about the actual model. So Selena, I know that there are 10 quality aspects you all identified that you feel are the most important. Can you talk about how you chose those 10 aspects over other aspects?
Yeah, so we tossed around some ideas ourselves. We also took as input the quality culture guide from Alan. That's where it kind of started, and then Janet enhanced some ideas, and kind of enhanced from there. And then we also surveyed some of our colleagues in the industry, and had them provide some input into what their thoughts were. And we also asked for inputs on, if these were the 10, how would you order these in terms of importance?
And
So with that, we kind of collated that and took our own, thoughts and our experiences with working in organizations and doing assessments ourselves and the impact of these different aspects in organizations to see and decide on the order. So we have these 10 different aspects. And the order that we put them in, we feel are the biggest contributing factors from, first listed down to the bottom in terms of affecting quality in organizations. So It might surprise some people that the number one item is feedback loops, which is looking on like how do we gather information and infer information and make decision about that, whether it's a retrospective or our test cases or doing demos with our stakeholders or feedback with our leadership teams from the teams themselves or vice versa. Having healthy feedback loops in place is one of the things that we feel is most important to get quality, in shape within software, but also within organizations as a whole. So it starts from feedback loops, and then we have other ones identified: culture, learning and improvements, development approach, quality and test ownership, testing breadth, code quality and technical debts, test automation and tools, deployment pipeline, and defect management. So I know in my experience and in Janet's experience too, a lot of the focus on quality in organizations throughout our careers and what we've experienced has always been about the testing and the quality of testing, right? And we're supposing and suggesting that that is not where we need to start. And if you start at the top of the list and get those things in really healthy order first, the quality aspects that come in a roundabout way around what testing could be or what it might look like, it's way more than test cases. It's about conversations and collaboration and, really getting the right thinking and the right practices in place. If we do that with quality, then everything else, kind of rolls downhill a lot easier.
Yeah, those top three that you mentioned, Selena, we call social practice, the social aspects, right?
Yes.
And then the next two, the development approach, and is kind of a mixture, right? Because what approach you choose will depend on what it is. And then we get into the technical aspects.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, it's such a wide-ranging and diverse list of aspects, but I can see how each area has a big impact on a team's ability to deliver a good quality product. So Janet, could you explain how a team would rate its capabilities in each one of those totally different aspects?
Yeah.
What are the dimensions within the model?
Yeah, so we identified 4 dimensions, and we really struggled with what word to use for that, but we ended up with dimensions. So the 4 are beginning, unifying, practicing, and innovating. So the beginning dimension is where many teams start. They know they can be better, and then what they're doing might feel like kind of chaos or a little chaotic, no real structure. Unifying is where a team has decided to adopt, say, some agile framework and is starting to understand what that means, unifying. We like that word. The third one is practicing. So most the teams delivering value to the customer frequently, whatever that means to them, and they're doing pretty good. The innovating dimension is kind of those really high performing teams, and they're always looking for new ways to improve and change things up. They're working really super well together, understand what the customer wants, needs. But it's really important to note that very few teams actually are in one dimension across all quality aspects. Most teams are on a continuous journey. They choose to, and most of the time, it appears, they really focus on that development aspect, their approach. Can we get better at doing this? Whereas, maybe they leave those feedback loops and forget about them, or they don't address the culture of their organization and team. So they're going to be in a different dimension. So you will see that teams, are perhaps practicing in 2 or 3 of them, but still struggling in some of the others. So it's kind of an interesting. It's interesting to see with the different teams and the organizations, because you can also kind of do a bigger picture, I guess, if you want. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and I really like that the terms you use for the different dimensions, they're descriptive, but they're not judgmental. One of the things that's always bothered me about maturity models is it seemed like a competition and you had to be great at everything. But I mean, the truth is these 10 aspects are important, but there may be contexts where one aspect isn't so important. And why spend the time to become the best at it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the goal here is to look at this like as a growth opportunity, and it's not a maturity model. We're
Yes, for
not
sure not.
fans of maturity models ourselves, because like, to your point, Lisa, like it can be really judgmental, and people then try to game the system to look like they're doing better than what they, because their organization is expecting it, rather than just being okay with, we are unifying in our development approach and quality and test ownership, and and that can be perfectly fine for them and where they're at and where they want to be, right? That can be perfectly the right fit.
But
And
importantly, they know where they are as a result of assessing where they are. I think that's so important. I've
Yes.
used the model myself to help teams with the quality practices assessment, and I'm just so grateful for the model. And the teams I assessed, they found the outcomes just really, really helpful. Selena, can you tell us more about the benefits and why a team might want to use it, or a whole software organization with many teams might want to use it?
Sure. I think you could probably speak, given that you have been using the model, a little bit better, but it's really, one of the benefits is, a team can just take it and use it and be really, like, it's an easy to access model, right? And it's really easy to use it to kind of figure out, where are we right now, and how can we grow into where we might want to be if we want to grow in a different direction. Our model provides a lot of very specific questions that they can use, like for each of the different aspects, to even just kind of self-evaluate ourselves. Or if you are like someone who would be facilitating an assessments, you would use, those questions to kind of get your juices flowing and start looking for, like, what do I need to look for in around feedback loops or testing breadth to know where a team might be operating. Our model also provides like a really, really clear list of, like, if these things are happening, this is what beginning looks like. If practicing is happening, that's what that looks like. So we're looking at behaviors and practices in depth for each of those areas too. So all of that to say, like, it's really accessible, it's easy to use, it's easy to understand. We've given you all of the groundwork to do a self-assessment or facilitate assessment. And I think that gives teams a lot more confidence in where we're at and where we might want to go. Like, it's not this nebulous thing about, well, we want to get better, but how do we get there? Right? Like, there's really clear examples and, guidance about, if a team is beginning around their test automation and tools versus unifying, really clear examples about those differences, right? So I think that confidence, the sense of agency and ownership, that we can drive this ourselves, that it's not like we need to rely on an expert to bring this in. I worked around maturity models my whole career, and there's just a lot of pressure with them, and they don't really give you the answers that you need to grow to the next place. And they do feel like judgment, like, you raise these for a lot of people. And this is not that at all. It's just kind of a roadmap for, growing together,
And
what would you add, Janet?
yeah, no, I was just going to say, and it's for the whole team, not just about testing or testers, right?
Exactly.
It's about the team. How do they do it?
And it's beyond the team, even. Like, you look at the whole organization, like, we talk about culture. Yeah, we can talk about team culture, but we're looking at culture involving leadership and teams outside of the team. And how do those interactions go? Is there quality in the interactions and the communication, and expectation around overtime versus sustainable pace, or learning and growth opportunities? Like, all of that really matters to help people to be at their best, to be able to build good quality services and products or whatever it is that they're creating.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think roadmap is a great analogy. It's like,
Oh,
because
cool.
so many teams are just chaotic, or it's like, oh, we need to fix all these things, and this gives them a focus and a step-by-step approach they can follow.
Yeah.
So I hear you two are in the process of writing a new book. So Janet, can you briefly tell us about the new one?
Okay. The first book explained the model, including all the questions as Selena mentioned. This next book is about how to facilitate the assessment. So it's aimed at facilitators, either independent consultants or perhaps in-house agile coaches, but it also can be used by teams who want to self-assess how to go about doing it. The other thing we're doing too is trying to get the first book ready to be put onto Amazon, and so people can get it in hard copy as well.
Physical copy. Yeah.
Because
Nice.
right now it's only available in LeanPub. So the second one will be in LeanPub too, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can get them both in hard copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just add to that, like the facilitator's book is targeted specifically towards our model. However, there's like so much wisdom in the book around like just how to facilitate an assessment of any kind, pulling from Janet's vast experience and my experience also, and how to make that go really smoothly in an organization. So I think that'll be accessible for people even if they don't use our model, but I mean, we'd love for you to use the model too.
Yeah, really. That's a really good point. And that's something where I know in my past, I was like really desperate to try to learn facilitation skills. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And of course, I can highly recommend the book because I've tried it and it works really well for me. So I think it'll work for a big range of people.
Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This has been a lovely chat and exploration. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, yes. Well, it's been wonderful to talk about QPAM. So, those of you watching, we hope that you will contact us if you have any questions or suggestions for topics for future chats. And also, please go to our website, agiletestingfellow.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. We have unique content every month just for subscribers. And we have a blog post, lots of content on there. So please get in touch, and we will see you next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Later. Thanks very much, Lisa. See you later, Selena.
Bye.